Good morning, children. Let's move to the 10th chapter in English, En route to America, part 1. Now, this story is written by Nayanthara Sehgal. She was born on 10th May 1927 and she is the niece of Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India. Politics and history inspire and underlie much of her writing. Most of her writings bring out concerns of independent existence of women. She was awarded the Sahitya Academy Award for English in 1986 for novel Rich Like Us. There's an extract from her memoir Prison and Chocolate Cake. Now, let's move over to the summary of this lesson. Now, this story was written during the pre-independence days, and the writer, together with the sister, was sent by her parents to America. Okay, that is when the war was going on, and they were going in a troop ship, okay, to America at the height of the war. Now, in the beginning, the author and his sister became very, very seasick. Okay, and but later on, you find she got accustomed to the journey. She began to enjoy her food, but there was no means of any sort of, say, recreation. And there was also the fear of the ship becoming ambushed, okay, or say attacked by enemy submarines. Now, but later on, as I said, she began to enjoy her journey, and one such moment when they came to, say, they were nearing, say, Australia, and it was towards the month of May. She found it the weather was very, very chilly. And as she stood on the deck enjoying you know, the breeze, the sea breeze, she got into a conversation with a very young soldier. Okay, and both of them began talking about their own country. Okay, but they had to move into the ship as soon as because it had begun to become uh, dark. Okay, now let's come to, say, these are some difficult words that you will come across in this lesson. We are going to frame sentences with these. Okay, recreation. There are excellent facilities for sports and recreation in our school. Then, follow. James is taking a follow after being critically wounded in the line of duty. Hilarity. The appearance caused a great deal of hilarity, that is amusement. Okay, then read. The clothes reeked of dampness and dirt. Dilapidated. To the east of the town, at the foot of a hill, stands a dilapidated fort. Now, here's a story for you. Some things will always remain a mystery to me. One of these is a perpetually baffling question. How did Mummy and Papu ever have the courage to send us to America in 1943? Many people had journeyed abroad before the war, and many more were to go after, but few went as we did at an age from a peaceful country on a troop ship at the height of the war. Okay, so the author says, that there are many things which still remain a mystery to her, and that is how could it be that her parents had the courage to send them to America in 1943. They went to America, okay, on a troop ship at the height of the war. I've grown up since then, married and had children of my own. Yet the older I grow, the less able I'm to answer that question. So she has grown, as she says, she has grown up, she's got married, she has her own children. But the more she, thinks about it, she's not been able to answer this one question. I'm quite certain that I could never send my children away from home so confidently and fearlessly in such circumstances. Okay, so I remember, okay, it was during the war, okay, and that too in the year 1943. Okay, even today we find many parents don't want to send their parents away from their home. Okay, so just think of those days. Perhaps it is because I've not had the training, courage, and discipline that my parents had. So, one reason she says is that she did not have the training and courage and discipline which her parents had. At any rate, we were on board ship in Bombay Harbor waiting for the voyage to begin. So, um, Bombay Harbor, today we call it as Mumbai. Okay, and they were going to America. My aunt, mummy's only sister, Krishna Hathi Singh, who lived in Bombay, had rushed us through our last minute shopping and the numerous other arrangements the traveling during wartime entailed. Okay, so in those days, the war, it was during the war, and her sister, mommy's sister, okay, who lived in Bombay, okay, helped them with the last minute shopping, and that is, and apart from that, also numerous other arrangements that had to be done, and she was able to help them. She had seen us off at the dock with garlands of flowers, had put a red tilak on our foreheads, and had given us each a coconut for good luck and a little box of carved wood containing a handful of Indian earth in case you get homesick. Okay, so she had come to see them off at the dock, and she had put a red tilak on their foreheads. She had also given them a coconut, okay, for good luck, and she had also given them a box of carved wood, and there were a handful of earth, Indian earth. So in case they were going to get homesick, okay, they could see that. Okay, she was clearly apprehensive about our journey, though she did her best to hide her fears and told us stories about her own first exciting trip abroad. Okay, so though the aunt was very, very worried for them, for the journey for that they were going to undertake, she hid her fears and she began to tell them stories about how she had, about her first journey abroad. The thing to remember, she said, is to look helpless but be efficient. That way, everybody gives you a helping hand, and if everybody doesn't, you can take care of yourself anyway. Okay, so she told them, in case now you had to look very, very efficient, but at the same time, you can look helpless. That is, if you, pretend, then everyone will be there to help you, give you a helping hand. We found it was sage advice. Okay, so sage advice means very, very wise. Okay, a wise you know advice. Okay, that is especially since it was coming from her own aunt. Dolekha afterwards complained that it did not work out so well. As I always looked helpless, she was forced to be efficient. Okay, so Lekha, of course, the sister had later on told her that um, now that it didn't work out quite well with her. Okay, and as I always looked helpless, that is, as the author looked quite helpless, she was forced to be efficient. The ship had no facilities for recreation. Okay, so there was nothing on the ship for any sort of recreation, any sort of amusement, etc. There was no deck tennis, swimming, dancing, cinema shows, or any of the other amenities of travel by sea. Okay, most of the ships you find all these amenities are there, but in this ship there was nothing of that kind. According to our dispirited fellow passengers, the voyage offered nothing but drabness, dullness, and seasickness. Okay, so everything was very, very drab, everything was very, very dull. Okay, and all these passengers also later on complained of seasickness. And of course, there was always a possibility of attack by enemy submarine, as informed by the captain. And apart from all these, you find there was also a possibility, there's a fear that their ship could be attacked by enemy submarine. Okay. Then Lekha and I were totally unconcerned about these warnings. We had never been on a ship before, so we did not miss peacetime comfort and amenities. So Lekha, the author, as well as her sister, were least bothered about all these because they had not gone on a ship before. Okay, so they did not miss peacetime comfort and amenities. So they did not miss any sort of these comforts during peacetime. It was recreation enough to lean over the railings on the deck and feel the salt spray on our faces. Okay, so they used to stand on the deck, on the lean on the railings of the deck, and they could feel the spray of salt water on their faces to watch the changing panorama of the ocean and talk to other passengers. So they spend their time standing or leaning over the railings of the deck. They could feel the salt spray on their faces. They could see the beautiful, changes, the changes of the ocean, and also they spend the time talking to other passengers on the ship. As for the submarine scare, it only added to the excitement of our first voyage. Okay, just like others were, very, very worried about submarine, attack by enemy submarines. They were least bothered. They were, all the more excited because this was their first voyage. We were exhilarated at the thought of the adventure that lay ahead. They were very, very excited. Okay, they were just thinking of all that they would come across, in their journey. There were only two classes of passengers, officer and troop. Okay, so on the ship, there were two classes of passengers. One was the officer and the other was the troop. The Polish refugees belong to the troop class. Okay, so these refugees belong to the troop class. They lived on the lower deck and slept on the camp cots, closely packed row upon row. So these Polish refugees used to sleep on the lower deck, and that too on the camp cots, and these camp cots were closely packed row upon row. The rest of the passengers were assigned to the officer class and had cabins on the upper deck. So the other passengers, okay, they were assigned to the officer class and their cabin was on the upper deck. The mess room was common to all the passengers and we mingled freely with one another. Okay, and the mess room, of course, was common to all, that is the officer as well as the troop, and here they could all mingle with one another. Okay, so shall we do a short passage here? Okay, so we are going to start with Lekha to one another. Okay, now how many classes of passengers were there on the ship? Okay, so how many classes were there? You've got the answer here. There were only two classes of passengers, officer and troop. So how many classes of passengers were there on the ship? There were two classes of passengers on the ship, the officer and troop. Who belonged to the troop class? Okay, so you have the answer here. The Polish refugees belong to the troop class. Okay, so who belong to the troop class? The Polish refugees belong to the troop class. Where did the officer class have their cabins? Okay, you have the answer here. Okay, the rest of the passengers were assigned to the officer class and had cabins on the upper deck. So officer class had the cabins on the upper deck. So the officer class had the cabins on the upper deck. Then give the antonyms of the following words from the passage. Okay, so here I've given the word concerned. The antonym of concerned is unconcerned. And the second one we have is discomfort. The antonym of discomfort is comfort. Then the fifth one, we were exhilarated at the thought of the adventure that lay ahead. Add a question tag. So, question tag, I hope you haven't forgotten. Okay, so we have the answer here. We were exhilarated at the thought of the adventure that lay ahead. Okay, weren't we? Okay, so children, we'll continue with this in the next session. Okay, please go through this video. Okay, thank you.